You know, sometimes a global alliance doesn't fall apart with a bang. Not with armies, not with sanctions. It crumbles with a single word, a handshake that's left hanging. A conversation that suddenly turns cold. And tonight, we're going there. We're pulling back the curtain on something that jolted the world stage. Something raw, something personal. Because when Donald Trump talks, love him or hate him, the world listens. And this time he didn't go after a country. He didn't point fingers at a system. He blamed a person, one Indian official. In his words, that one man destroyed the U.S.-India relationship. So who is this man? What went down behind those tightly shut diplomatic doors? And how did a moment of resistance change the course of a global alliance? This isn't just about politics. This is about ego, pride, power, and the rise of Indian diplomacy that refuses to bend. This is about one voice that stood tall and made the world take notice. So grab your seat, turn the volume up, and ride this through to the end. Because once you hear what really happened, you won't look at U.S.-India relations the same way again. From poverty to power, India's economic roar. It wasn't long ago when the world labeled India as a developing country. A polite way of saying, not a threat. They saw crowded streets, poverty, and political chaos. What they missed was something far more powerful, a hunger to rise. Today, India is not just participating in the global economy, it's driving it. According to the IMF and World Bank, India is the fastest growing major economy in the world. Its GDP growth is beating global giants like Germany, Japan, and even the US. While others are managing recessions and stagnation, India is investing, building, and scaling. From Mumbai's stock market to Bengaluru's tech streets, capital is flowing. Over 70,000 startups have launched since 2016, making India the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. This isn't just about apps or unicorns. It's about a generation saying, we don't want jobs. We'll create industries. While the world struggled with COVID fallout, India became a pharmaceutical powerhouse, exporting vaccines to over 70 countries. While inflation shook the West, India stabilized fuel prices through strategic international ties. And now India is inking trade deals with the UK, UAE, Australia, and even negotiating preferential access in the EU. That's not survival. That's strategy. This is no longer the India of cheap labor. This is the India of smart capital, of billion-dollar valuations, digital currency systems, and green energy revolutions. And the West, they're watching because they know when 1.4 billion people start winning, there's no going back. Sometimes all it takes is one voice. Not an army, not a movement. Just one person, firm in conviction, clear in values, and unshakable in truth, to shift the mindset of a nation and disrupt the balance of global power. This isn't fiction. This is exactly what happened when one Indian diplomat stood across from one of the most unpredictable and powerful leaders the world has seen. Donald J. Trump. And he didn't flinch. Trump, the man who built his empire on loyalty, spectacle, and dominance, was used to walking into a room and owning it. Heads nodding, people adjusting to his tempo. But not this time, because sitting across the table was Dr. S. J. Shankar, India's External Affairs Minister. A man of few words, but immense weight. And in that moment, in a high-stakes room filled with diplomats and demands, one thing became clear: India wasn't here to bow. It was here to be heard. Donald Trump made headlines, not because of a policy, not because of a speech, but because of something deeply personal. He told the world that one Indian man, not Modi, not India, but one Indian diplomat had destroyed U.S.-India relations. And that single sentence, it wasn't just a grievance. It was a revelation. It told us that global politics isn't just about agreements or strategies. It's about people. Ego, respect, and emotion. Trump didn't feel dismissed by a nation. He felt rejected by a person. And when someone like Trump feels rejected, he doesn't forget. Let's get real here. Trump wasn't upset about tariffs or defense contracts. He was upset that someone dared to say no to him. That someone was Jay Shankar. This is where the mindset shift begins. Because for decades, India played the silent partner. Cooperative, polite, agreeable. The West got used to the India that listened more than it spoke. The India that waited for a seat at the table. But this generation of Indian diplomacy, it's different. It doesn't ask. It asserts. It doesn't please. It positions. And when Trump's team walked into that meeting expecting quick wins, fast concessions, admiration even, what they got was clarity, calm, confidence, and an unapologetic no. India didn't reject partnership. It rejected pressure. Jai Shankar wasn't rude. He was firm. He wasn't emotional. He was strategic. He didn't challenge Trump as a person. He challenged the assumption that India could be managed, steered, or softened. And that right there, that quiet resistance, shook the room. Because the loudest power isn't the one that yells. It's the one that doesn't blink. Trump thrives on control. His foreign policy isn't built on institutions. It's built on chemistry, admiration, obedience. So when Jay Shankar stood his ground, when he calmly protected India's autonomy and interest, it wasn't just diplomacy. It was disruption. That one act, saying India won't bend, wasn't meant to insult Trump, but to Trump. That was personal. And that's what sparked the shift. That's what made Trump step back from India. Not because of trade, not because of defense, but because someone refused to validate his worldview. Jay Shankar became the symbol of a new India. An India that doesn't fear losing favor. An India that values dignity over deals. This moment matters more than people realize, because every generation sees a few leaders who aren't loud, but they're louder in silence. Who don't fight, but still win. Who don't raise their voices, but raise their nation's standing. Jai Shankar didn't make this personal, but he didn't let it become a performance either. He understood one thing: you don't represent a country by flattering others. You represent it by standing for it. This is why mindset matters. Not just for diplomats, not just for politicians, but for you. Because in your life too, you will walk into rooms where people expect you to shrink, to nod, to stay silent. And in those moments, your power won't be in how loudly you speak. It will be in how deeply you stand. That's what Jay Shankar taught the world. And that's what India today is teaching every rising nation, every young professional, every underestimated individual. You don't have to fight loud to be strong. You just have to know who you are. So the next time someone questions your place at the table, the next time you feel the pressure to compromise just to be accepted, remember this moment. One man, one voice, one stand changed everything. Because that's how mindsets shift. That's how nations rise. And that's how one quiet voice can echo across the entire world. Trump's way of operating isn't secret loyalty, respect, admiration, or get out. And if someone challenges that, he doesn't just walk away. He remembers. He reacts. What we saw wasn't just a policy fracture. It was an emotional shift. Meet the man who stood his ground, Dr. S. Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister. Sharp, strategic, relentless. He's not just a diplomat. He's the face of a new India. One that's done being lectured. One that walks into global rooms with its head held high. During Trump's presidency, trade deals, defense talks, everything was on the table. and in the middle of it, Jay Shankar stood firm. He wasn't there to flatter egos. And let me tell you, Trump expects admiration, not resistance. So when Jay Shankar refused to back down, it felt personal. Yes, Modi and Trump played nice in public. Think, howdy Modi, namas Trump. But behind those smiling photos was a different story. Jay Shankar was holding the line, and that firmness, Trump read it as defiance. There was a particular meeting, high stakes, high pressure. Trump's aides wanted concessions. India wanted fairness, respect, autonomy. Jay Shankar said no. On tariffs, on tech transfers, on defense procurement. India wasn't going to be arm twisted. And Trump didn't just see that as policy resistance. He saw it as a personal rejection. From that moment, the tone changed. Trade deals got stuck. Defense agreements stalled. Public smiles, private distance. Eventually, Trump blamed one man for the fallout. Here's the truth: after 2020, the friendship started to fracture publicly too. The US pulled India's GSP trade benefits. America First clashed with Atmanirbhar Bharat, a self-reliant India. Washington wanted more access, more control. India said, not at the cost of our independence. And that rubbed people the wrong way, especially on defense. India bought the S-400 missile system from Russia. The US threatened sanctions. India stood its ground. Then came Ukraine. The West wanted condemnation. India chose neutrality. Strategic autonomy wasn't a buzzword. It was a line in the sand. This isn't the India of the 90s. This is unapologetic diplomacy, no more being talked down to. India isn't asking for a seat at the table. It's claiming it. This was supposed to strengthen the alliance. What happened instead? A breakdown. The room grew cold. The trust cracked. And even though public smiles remained, both governments knew something had shifted. Trump walked away feeling disrespected. Jai Shankar walked away standing taller. It wasn't war. It wasn't sanctions. It was ego vs. sovereignty. Two forces, two mindsets, and one unforgettable standoff. Global politics isn't just policy, it's people. It's emotion. Trump didn't like to be challenged. Jay Shankar wasn't there to flatter. One wanted a deal. The other demanded respect. So here we are, looking back at a moment that could have strengthened a global alliance, but instead nearly broke it. All because two men, both powerful, both unwavering, collided. Trump, fueled by loyalty and ego. Jay Shankar, powered by principle and strategy. This wasn't about policy failure. It was about one individual refusing to shrink, and that refusal echoed across the world. In the end, when Trump said it wasn't India that failed America, but one Indian, he admitted something bigger, that sometimes dignity is mistaken for defiance. And sometimes standing tall means walking away alone. But history will decide whether that was destruction or the beginning of a new kind of diplomacy.